Welcome to Whispers in the Dark. In this episode, we bring you 3 stories retold from people who worked deep into the night, when the world was asleep, and things that shouldn't appear began to stir. Everything you're about to hear is said to be true. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and if you're working the night shift, make sure you're the only one still awake. Story 1. Night security in abandoned office building. I used to work as a night security guard at an old office building on the edge of the city center. It was once the headquarters of a big bank, but after it changed owners, the offices gradually moved out. By the time I took the shift, the building only had a few storage rooms for files on the 2nd floor, a technical room on the ground floor, and a whole lot of darkness everywhere else. My shift started at 10 p.m. and ended at 6 a.m. No cameras, no coworkers. Just me, a flashlight, a logbook, and an old radio to call the manager if something went wrong. I thought I was used to night shifts. I'm an introvert by nature, not afraid of the dark, and I don't believe in ghosts. But that building, it made me think differently. On my very first night, while patrolling the hallway on the 1st floor, I heard footsteps echoing down from the 3rd floor. Slow, deliberate. I called out loud, "Is anyone up there?" No one answered. I climbed the stairs step by step. The higher I went, the colder it got. The 3rd floor was pitch black. All the doors were locked. I shined my flashlight through each dusty glass panel. Nothing. I was about to head back down when the hallway lights flicked on. I jumped. The building's lighting system was supposed to be off from the 3rd floor up. That's what the manager himself told me when he handed me the keys. I called him. He just chuckled. Probably just a power glitch. You're not the first to hear stuff like that. Ignore it. But I couldn't ignore it. Because weird things started happening more often. Another night, while I was writing in the logbook at the guard station on the ground floor, I heard a faint laugh coming through the ventilation system. Not a man's voice. Not an old person's, but a child's voice, clear and bright, like someone was playing hide and seek above me. I stood up right away, shining my flashlight around the room, but everything was dead silent. I checked the hallway, the bathroom, even the utility closet. No one was there. But when I got back to the desk, I saw a small wet spot on the table, shaped like a handprint. I started recording my shifts on my phone, not out of fear, but because I thought, if someone's messing with me, I'll catch them. The next morning, when I listened to the recording from 2:58 a.m. to 3:07 a.m., I found a part I'll never forget. A tiny whisper, right up against the mic. "Don't sit in my spot." I shut it off immediately. Cold sweat trickled down my neck. I told an old coworker about it, someone who'd worked the night shift here before me. He just said one thing: "Don't go up to the 5th floor." I asked why. He replied, "I got lost up there once." The door was open, but when I stepped in, all the hallway lights downstairs turned off by themselves. I headed back down, and on every floor I passed, I saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway, just standing there. I should have listened to him, but I didn't. That night, after a week of sleepless unease, I decided to go up to the 5th floor. The staircase leading there was narrower, dustier, and colder than anywhere else. The iron door to the 5th floor was rusted but unlocked. I pushed it open. The hinges screeched like someone screaming. No lights, just a long hallway and a flickering yellow bulb at the far end. As soon as I stepped inside, the radio on my shoulder crackled with a click, even though I hadn't touched it. And then, a raspy voice came through the static. "Can you hear it?" I held my breath. The voice came again, clearer. "I'm right behind you." I didn't turn around. I ran, down the stairs, tripping once, nearly tumbling to the ground floor. When I finally got the emergency exit open and stumbled outside, I was gasping like I'd just survived a heart attack. The next morning, I called to quit. The manager didn't ask why. He just said one thing. "Well, you lasted longer than most of the others." I never went back to that building, but sometimes, around 3 a.m., I dream I'm standing on the 5th floor. The door at the end of the hallway is still open, and a little girl, faceless, stands there, pointing at the chair I used to sit in. Story 2. The guest without a shadow at the gas station in the desert. I used to work the night shift at a small gas station in the middle of the Nevada desert, not the modern kind. It was nearly 20 miles off the main highway, just a tiny counter, one pump, and an old container used as storage. No one wanted to work there at night. No cameras, no cell service. Just the buzzing fluorescent lights and the sound of wind whistling through the sand. My shift ran from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The owner only gave me one piece of advice. Never step outside if the front light flickers on its own. I laughed, thought he was joking. But a few days later, I realized he meant it. Around 1:23 a.m., I was reading a newspaper when the outside light turned on. No sound of a car, no footsteps, just light. I stood up, looked out the glass door. There was someone out there, a man, tall, wearing a long coat, a wide-brimmed hat covering most of his face. I couldn't see his face clearly, only his shadow, which didn't show up on the ground. The light hit him straight on, but there was no shadow. I stepped to the cashier counter, turned on the mic by the window. The night wind was freezing, carrying the dry smell of sand and oil. I asked, "Do you need anything, sir?" He didn't answer, just stood there, head tilted slightly, like he was listening to something behind me. I looked around. It was just me in the station. No noise, no one else. I asked again, "Sorry, are you okay?" That's when he lifted his head, and I saw his face. Or rather, I didn't see anything. Under the wide-brimmed hat was a void, pitch black, formless, like a hole in the air. I stepped back instinctively. My hands shook, nearly dropping the walkie-talkie. I flipped on the floodlights outside. The cold white beam lit up everything. And he was gone. Instantly. No sound, no footprints, no dust stirred. Just the empty gas station and the wind, stronger than before. I locked the door, pulled the blinds, and sat still until morning. I decided I'd quit the next day, but I didn't get the chance, because he came back. The next night, 2:17 a.m., I was in the back technical room when I heard the front door alarm chime. I ran to the counter, but the door was still locked. On the camera screen in the bottom left corner, the station entrance, there was a faint white blur, like static interference. I zoomed in, and my heart stopped. It was him, still no shadow. But this time, he was staring right into the camera, not moving, not blinking. And the moment I looked into his eyes, the whole screen turned black and white, then scrambled completely. I ran outside, gripping a baseball bat. But the front lot was empty. The wind stopped. The air felt frozen. Still, not a sound. Except for one thing. On the station's glass door, a dusty handprint, bigger than any normal human hand I'd ever seen. I quit the next morning. No notice. The owner wasn't surprised. He just said, "If you see him once, you're lucky. But if you see him twice, it means he's chosen you." A year later, I happened to drive past that gas station on a cross-state trip. It was abandoned. Weeds had taken over the lot. But as I glanced back, I swear I saw the front light flicker once, then go out. And in the rearview mirror, there was a figure standing by the gas pump. Under the moonlight, still no shadow. Story 3, Night Shift and Children in Room 204. I used to be a nurse, or, more accurately, I used to do that job. I worked the night shift at a small community hospital on the outskirts of Oregon. The hospital was old, Just 3 floors: the ER, the inpatient ward, and the geriatric unit. I was assigned to the 2nd floor, the pediatric wing, from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Night shifts were usually quiet. The kids went to bed early, and I just had to do periodic checks. No visitors, no doctors, no noise, just the dim white lights and the echo of my shoes in the empty hallway. That night was a Wednesday. While reviewing charts at 1 a.m., I noticed a new name handwritten on the pediatric patient list: Liam Keller, 7 years old, room 204. I didn't recall any new admissions. It wasn't in the shift handover. I texted the previous shift's nurse, but no one replied. I grabbed my flashlight and headed to room 204. The door was slightly ajar, the inside dim. I knocked lightly 3 times. No answer. I pushed the door open, and there was a kid sitting on the bed. Not sleeping, not crying, just sitting, hands on his knees, staring straight at me. I stepped closer. "Are you Liam, right?" The boy nodded. A slow nod, like every movement was stifled by the air in the room. I checked the chart hanging at the head of the bed. Blank. No records, no meds, no treatment orders, just an old clipboard, nothing more. "Do you want some water, or are you hurting anywhere?" He answered in a near whisper, "They left me here, but they didn't come back." I asked, "Who left you here?" He looked up at me, his eyes pitch black, no light reflected in them, no depth. "The morning nurse didn't see me, but you do." I froze. The air in the room felt colder than the rest of the hospital. I stepped back, shut the door. I was shaking. Cold sweat ran down my neck. I went back to the desk, pulled up the patient system. No Liam Keller, no 7-year-old patients on the 2nd floor. Room 204 was listed as vacant for repairs for the past 2 weeks. I called the shift supervisor. No answer. I asked the 3rd floor nurse to come check with me. We both went back to room 204. The door was still ajar. Inside, empty. The bed was neatly made. Crisp white sheets. No sign anyone had been there. No smell of medicine. No trace of a person. Just the sharp scent of disinfectant. Overpowering. I reviewed the hallway camera footage. I saw myself walking to room 204, knocking on the door, stepping inside, standing there for nearly 4 minutes, then leaving. Just me. No kid. But I had talked. I remembered it clearly. I looked into his eyes. I heard his voice. I reacted. I rewatched the video. I saw myself reaching out like I was offering water, smiling, nodding, to nothing. 3 days later, no one said a word. At my next shift, the supervisor just said, "No more accessing the cameras, and don't let your imagination mess with your work." I didn't argue. But that night, while changing into my uniform at my locker, I found a piece of colored paper someone had slipped under the drawer. A crude crayon drawing. It showed a faceless child standing by a hospital bed, and an adult in a nurse's uniform, looking exactly like me. In the corner, scribbled words, "You saw me. Liam. I quit. Never went back to that hospital." But the drawing, no matter how many times I threw it away the next morning, it was back in my nightstand drawer. And at exactly 1:04 a.m. every night, I hear the sound of paper rustling. When I turn on the light, it's just that paper and the smell of disinfectant. Thank you for listening. If you've ever worked the night shift, maybe you've seen something too. If you haven't, just keep hoping it stays that way. Subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more whispers in the dark.